Hi there, and welcome to Season 2 of Thread Talks. I'm Thuthi Gunawardena, part of the Twinery team, and I'm here today talking to Malik Ahamadeen. He's the Group Director of Growth and Business Development, and he's been with MAS since 2005.
That's right.
Yeah, so looking forward to a deeply insightful chat about what you've been doing here at MAS all this time.
Glad to be here, and it's great chatting.
All right, so my first question to you, how do you explain what you do for a living on a daily basis?
So, my role as the Growth and Business Development Director is to ensure that I wake up in the morning and think about MAS as a company and making sure that we have profitable growth and the right portfolio of customers. So that's what I do. I ensure that we have the right portfolio of customers, the correct fit, and to ensure that it's profitable growth, not just growth for the organization.
Now, I mentioned that you've been with the company since 2005.
That's correct.
Can you tell me about your journey within MAS?
It's been very interesting. So I used to work for a company called Favorite Garments, which was right next to Paradigm Clothing at the Avisavel zone. And then MAS acquired WW Paradigm. And then I was headhunted into managing that factory as a general manager. So I did that role for a couple of years, maybe 3. Then I moved to Colombo to run the Nike business as the business director. It was a very interesting time. That was between 2008 and 2014. Then in 2015, I set up the Nike Innovation Center for MAS and Nike. It was a virtual joint venture. We created a lot of cool stuff there. I also then did a stint of design, product innovation, engineering, MOS, digital, running a campus, running a fabric mill. So all of that between 2016 and 2019. Then I think 2020 onwards, I've been doing my current role, which is the growth and product development role.
Wow, that sounds like a lot. Is there anything you haven't done in your time at MAS?
So I haven't run a finance team. I have done everything then other than running a finance team, and I don't think anybody will give me that role. So yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't give it to me.
Okay. What's drawn you to stay at MAS all these years?
So I think my values and MAS values align. I think it's a great organization set up by 3 brothers, and today we have great leaders who are the next generation, and also my personal beliefs align with this company. And I like the way we do things and being honest, truthful, and do the right thing always. So I think that is why I'm here.
All right. Now, since we're in the business of apparel, I want to talk clothing to you.
Yep.
What matters to you most when you're buying new clothing or when you're getting dressed in the morning?
So staying up with the trend, but most importantly, comfort. I look for comfort. I always wear something that makes me comfortable, and this is how I go to work.
How you go to work? So matching watch to your socks, that's a thing?
Yeah, I wear colorful socks. Yeah, I collect watches. It just happens that this was an orange one, and this orange is one of my favorite colors. And this is on my desk because I fidget and we are on calls all day, and I brought it along with me, and it happened to be orange also.
So it has nothing to do with that, like orange is still an on-trend color, summer trend color?
Actually, orange is one of my favorite colors, and one of the brands I worked with used an orange in their branding, and it was very much part of that brand. And I think with that, it stuck with me.
All right. So we talked about what matters to you when you're picking apparel, but what's your personal viewpoint about clothing and the apparel industry?
So honestly, Thuthi, I think we overconsume. We are a complete obese society in this world of overconsumption of apparel amongst everything else. It's bad for business to say that, but I think there's a better way to do that. We need to be more sustainable in how we do apparel, whether we are upcycling, recycling, or sharing clothing, renting, whatever it is, or even thinking of degradable clothing. We need to go there. We can't consume at the same pace between the carbon footprint of shipping, airlines going across the world, whether it's fabric being sent or garments, and the amount of water we spend on creating fabrics, and then the consumption of water at the consumer's end. it's just unbelievable. So I think we need to make sure that this planet is in a better place, and we have to start. The apparel producers and also the consumers have to think about this in the future.
So as the person leading growth and business development here at MAS, what is your mission statement here within the company, and why should we follow you?
So I think we want to be seen as a business solutions provider to all our brands, and not just bringing innovation to the table, but also the full solution, whether it's sustainability, whether it's compliance, whether it's which part of the world we produce and ship from, to the technical and design skills that we have, the full solution. We need to be known as the person or the place to go to when it comes to apparel, all apparel, not just performance apparel or lingerie, all of it.
Have you, touching upon the different types of apparel in the market right now that MAS is doing, intimate, sportswear, swim, athleisure, have you noticed the needle point shifting in any of these categories in relation to fit, durability, or sustainability?
Yes, Thuthi, I think so fit has always been there and it will continue to be there. The one thing where the needle has shifted is the awareness on sustainability, and people are responsible. They're buying responsibly,
Okay.
so that is pushing the brands to also source responsibly. I think so that is one big shift. But the types of apparel itself is also moving. Like we mentioned earlier in the segment before, the last 2 years, the clothing patterns, the people, how the attire, the wardrobe has changed. People are wearing casual clothing to work because this is how we work. In the past, I used to wear cufflinks and a tie. So yeah, the trends have changed, the behaviors have changed, and also circumstances have changed.
All right, so you touched upon the shifting needle in a variety of categories. But right now, MAS is a $2 billion company, right? We're in 17 countries. We have 53 manufacturing facilities all over the world. How hard is it to stay abreast of all these changes?
So, Thuthi, we are in 17 countries, like you mentioned, and this happened by design. We are probably one of the few manufacturers, or the only manufacturer on the planet, who has companies across the globe in all of the continents, and we are giving solutions to our customers from different parts of the world, whether it's near shore, onshore, speed, duty free, or just capability close to their markets. So I think we are doing all the right things. Like I mentioned earlier, the first billion took 20 years and the second took 10. The third is going to take 5. And I think we are geared to become a $5 billion company. And we are well set in these locations, the 17 that you mentioned. And some of those, maybe 2 or 3 of those will grow faster than the others.
And how are we able to grow at this rate?
So it's a mindset, right? So we had a mindset of, getting to $1 billion was a big deal. And when we got to $1 billion, we set ourselves a target on 2 billion. And now we are talking about 3. So it's a shift of mindset. There may be different ways of doing things at 3, 4, and 5 billion, but it can be done. And we see large organizations across the world, even apparel companies that are 10 billion. So I think we should be aggressive. We should set ourselves a good target and get there. And I think we as a company could be 5 billion soon.
So you talked about mindset and how 5 billion is just a mindset, but I'm curious to know what your mindset is about innovation.
So innovation is what we do every day. Incremental innovation is innovation, though we don't think about it like that. We do make groundbreaking inventions every now and then in our company, but I think as a company we are innovative, whether it's lean manufacturing, whether it's automation, modernization, design, virtual prototyping. We are innovating every day, and we sometimes take for granted what we do. We are a very unique company. We do things that other apparel companies don't do. So we should pat ourselves on the back for that. We are certainly ahead of the game when it comes to innovation.
How do you foster that spirit of innovation within your team and within a whole organization of this size?
So I think the key to innovation is failing fast and failing forward. I think we mentioned this earlier. We should allow our leaders to make some calls, take some risks, calculated risks, and that's how innovation happens.
So Malik, you were telling us about your innovation mindset approach and how failure is a key component of that. Is that the same way you feel about product development and its process?
So, Thuthi, product development happens in two ways. The way we work with our customers, some customers send us their technical package and then we execute, no questions asked. We may make some minor adjustments on the sewing detail, or we may suggest a better way of doing the sewing part of it. Whereas some of the other customers expect design and innovation input from us. So I think we do a very good job of our creativity, technical ability and sewing skill where we bring to the table. So some customers depend on us for that. So two ways of doing it. One is you just execute what they give you. The other is where they are open to our suggestions in terms of design, technical and know-how.
So how are you helping to build the depth in terms of our skill set and our diversity and our innovation products, and our innovative products, sorry?
So Thuthi, Sri Lankans have a huge demand across the world. We are very good in our skill when it comes to apparel, technical. If you go to any country, Bangladesh, India, Jordan, Indonesia, Vietnam, Sri Lankans are at the top of the game when it comes to product creation, technical, quality systems and so on. So there is something in this little island that the customers keep coming back to. If you look at the big brands that work with us, we are a preferred destination or a preferred company for that matter. And it is because we have this special skill of creating this great product and seeing it till the end. I think finishing a job, being diligent on delivery, the inputs we give on technical. So I think there's something that we have as Sri Lankans that we have to be proud of. And of course, I think MAS has been in the front of that, creating that capability on this little island.
It's an interesting answer. How do all those factors contribute to the way you approach long-term strategic planning?
It's a good question. As MAS, we have something called the long-range plan, which is a 3 to 4 year horizon that we look at, and it's a rolling horizon. But from a growth and business development point of view, I believe the CEO and the COO of the company and maybe the growth guy, which is me, we need to look at 2 cycles of long-range planning. The customers also give you some visibility of what they are thinking and how they are planning or how their markets are moving in the next 3 years. But we need to have a point of view, a 6 to 7 year point of view, so that we can place our bets and make some moves depending on that. So I think there's a midterm long-range plan. I think a few of us have to have a long-range plan, which is a 7 to 8 year window.
All right. 7 to 8 year window,
Yep.
looking that far ahead into the future.
Yes.
All right. So we talked about the future, but can you tell me right now, is there a problem that your team is working to solve?
So we have a few problems that we are trying to solve. So one is the low-cost manufacturing to crack the Indian market. So that's a big one.
Okay.
We have stayed away from that for a while. We ran our own brand for many years, but now we are working with a few partners in India, trying to own that space, the bra market of India. The second big one we are trying to crack is digital business models to support the digital customer. There are some brands which are selling product online only. They don't have brick and mortar stores. So we are trying to come up with business models to make them successful. And then there are some other brands which are having physical stores as well as selling online, what we call phygital, a little bit of physical and digital. So that's another one we are trying to crack. So I think those two are the ones that my team and I are trying to solve for MAS, if I may say, in the next 2 or 3 years. So the India piece and the digital business model piece.
So you touched upon some really interesting strategies there. Can I ask you to expand upon them and tell me how those will affect the industry as an apparel and textile manufacturer, and how they will affect consumers and many different lives around the world?
So let me just expand on the digital customer part of it. During the last couple of years, we have had a lot of small brands that came into the fray. Some little entrepreneurs coming up with a unique solution or a unique product. They didn't know much about textile manufacturing or apparel manufacturing, but they had a unique product. And so our digital business model team will make sure that we make them successful. whether it's product creation, whether it's planning, whether it's demand forecasting, whether it's manufacturing small orders at the right time, we will come up with those solutions. So that's one area, which is the digital business models. Some of these smaller brands will eat into the large brand pie. They come up with something unique, and we saw in the last 5 years a lot of this happen. I can name a few brands, Savage, for instance.
Fenty.
Yeah, so some of those are growing exponentially, and when that happens, if we don't check, adjust, and we don't give solutions to those small brands, somebody else will. So my team and I, what we try to do is make sure that we are staying relevant with those new brands also.
Is there a problem right now in the apparel space that you're eagerly awaiting a solution for? It might not be something we're working on, but is there a solution you're looking out for?
So Thuthi, we spoke about sustainability, obesity, overconsumption. So I think the biggest problem that I would like to solve in the apparel industry is upcycling clothing. We have recycled polyester and nylon and things like that, where we turn PET bottles into yarn and turn garments into it. But we have very little garments being recycled back into garments. So there are some solutions now, and our teams are also working on it. The day we crack that one, I think we will be having less landfill to begin with, and also will be responsible apparel makers. So it's not just a customer who is looking for solutions. I think as apparel makers and manufacturers, we need to work on this space as well.
Okay.
And we are.
Thank you for that. So let's pivot a little bit from that macro outlook, and I'm going to ask you a question a little bit more related to what's happening now, to shift a little bit to the micro detail of your day-to-day. What's the biggest failure that has happened recently to your team, and why do you think that happened?
So I think not really a failure, but just to tell you the dynamics in the market. We go through a cycle of long-range planning, like we spoke about earlier. Then we do budgeting, and we work on a calendar year. But the market has shifted so much in the last 6 months. So it's not a failure. It's about what we said we will do from a long-range plan, to what we said we will budget for, to what we are actually doing now. A lot has changed, and it's nobody's failure, but it's a big learning on how to react and how the marketplace is. So I think that's the one thing that I would consider as an organization, as me and my team, the reaction to the changes in the last 6 months, what we predicted, and to what's happening now. Nobody could have guessed.
Fair enough. So you talked about changes that are happening rapidly fast. You're talking about how MAS as an organization is looking at different types of long-range plans. So my question back to you is, can an organization of our size, $2 billion, spread across the world, can an organization of our size really be considered agile?
So this is what we're working on now. We are in 17 countries, like we spoke earlier. Our customers are taking us to these countries mostly, and then we give them solutions from those destinations. But the biggest stumbling block for us is the agility on the product types that could go there. Meaning we do briefs, bras, sportswear, athleisure, all of that. But all of our countries can't produce all of this. But for us to be super successful, we need to be agile to the point that we could produce most of these in most of those countries. And we are currently having a work stream. It's on product agility. We have a senior leader who's working across the organization trying to crack this one. So when the customer wants to do bras and also tights in the same factory in Haiti, for instance, we should be able to do it in the future. So we are working towards that.
So you touched on that brands specifically are leading the demand in terms of what MAS produces. How is this affecting our global footprint?
So I think we spoke about this earlier. Currently we are 70% in Sri Lanka, 30% outside Sri Lanka. And we are purposely working towards a 40% outside Sri Lanka footprint. And that is also with growth. So we will be having 40% of our product at $3.5 billion produced outside Sri Lanka, and that requires agility not only on the product but people agility. People who are able to mix into those cultures, to be able to understand the people, the languages, the skill in those countries. So we do send people out to these countries. Every time we set up a country, each country could have Sri Lankans, 20 to 40 Sri Lankans who go out to set up those companies. So there is a cultural piece also. It's not only the product piece that is the complexity of going into a country. But the overall thing is that as we go, as I mentioned earlier, we need to be agile in being able to create different types of products in all these countries.
So you touched upon that earlier, enhancing the diversity of product offering in each of our sites. Is there any other skill that you think MAS needs to strengthen from internally?
So it's the people part that we keep coming back to. The talent agility is as important as the product agility, like we mentioned in the earlier question. The people agility and the bench strength that you have is going to determine how fast you can grow overseas. So two ways to crack that is to have local talent in those countries, come up the ranks and take on those management positions, which we are working on. But till then, our growth will be curtailed with the amount of talent that we can send out there. So talent agility is as important as product agility.
So as the person leading growth and business development, what does a new venture or avenue need to have to excite you in order for you to pursue it?
So we have so many ventures, partnerships that we have with our customers, with other partners. It may be a joint venture or even acquisition. In all of those, I think what excites me the most is that all parties leave the room thinking they have won, and that the feeling is mutual. So I think that what excites me the most, to work with people, to come to a point that we all believe that that particular partnership or deal or franchise or joint venture is successful, and we all left the room thinking we won. So I think if you can achieve that, those partnerships will last a long, long time.
In Season 2 Conversations of Thread Talks, we're focusing about the new digital aspect of our business and digital creation, whether that's going to be augmented reality or virtual reality. But my question to you is, what role do you see AI playing in the future of apparel and textile manufacturing?
I think AI will feature in demand forecasting mostly, but augmented reality has a bigger play in apparel industry where we could troubleshoot remotely. Okay. We spoke about having factories in Haiti, and our engineer in Colombo could troubleshoot and support somebody with augmented reality. So AI is good. Augmented reality, for me, from the apparel industry, from where we sit as manufacturers, have a bigger play.
So you talked about demand forecasting, but how do you stay consumer focused and not competitor focused?
So Thuthi, we have to look at both. Understanding the consumer, like I mentioned, sometimes the consumer doesn't know what they want. So our brands create needs in the consumer's minds on things they didn't know they wanted. So that's one. But keeping in touch of your competitor is equally important, because that keeps us relevant. Understanding the consumer is one thing. Knowing your competitor is even more important. For example, I'll give you an example from 2009. Toyota was such a big company doing well, and they were cash rich. They could have acquired all the American auto brands, but they didn't. And why? They said, we won't do that, because if we acquire all those brands, we won't have competition to keep us relevant. So I think that's a really powerful statement. The competitors keep us sane and alive and going after a goal. And if we didn't have competition, we wouldn't know what to benchmark against. So I think understanding your competition is very, very important in the way I see it.
So thank you for that business outlook and a little sneak peek at what it's like behind an apparel and textile manufacturer. But I'd like to pivot the conversation slightly to talk about you and your view and your personal outlook in business. So I'd like to know, how important is unstructured time for being productive in your role?
So I think reflection time. Let me say that reflection is the key to success. If you don't have enough time for yourself as an individual and as a business person to reflect on what's happening now in your life or in your business field, and painting a picture of the future, trying to map how to get there, is extremely important. So I think reflection time or unstructured time, as you said, it is key.
So speaking of reflection, I'd like to end it now with some words of wisdom from you. Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently?
As an individual, yes, I have so many things I would have done differently, but in this industry, I think it's easy to say what you would have done differently, but I think the world is moving so fast and the changes are happening so rapidly that staying relevant is going to be the key, and keeping your ear to the ground is going to be absolutely important for the future. So I think what we used to do in 3 years is shrunk to 6 months, the cycles, and it's also happening from the external environment. So staying relevant is the key, if there's one thing that I would say.
All right, so Malik, for everyone who's just been listening on the audio version, you've been playing with that orange ball in your hand the entire interview. Can you tell me why?
So yeah, I have, since we started working from home in the last couple of years, I've had these little things on my desk, and I have a cricket ball, and this one is, I think, a Indo cricket or a hockey ball, and I'm a little fidgety, so when I'm on calls I keep playing around with this, and I brought it along with me today, and I think all this time you would have seen me fidget with that. So yeah, that's that. I like cricket. I like sports with balls, whether it's tennis, squash, cricket, Indo cricket, whatever, golf. So yeah, all my life I've been carrying a ball with me, I guess.
So we should just take it as a sign that you're excess energy?
I have a lot of excess energy.
All right. Well, thank you for that great chat, Malik.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure talking with you, and look forward to catching up soon.
Very soon. Thank you.